She was dating his brother. That should have been the end of the story. It wasn't. Because the moment the Alpha saw her, he didn't look away. He didn't hesitate. He didn't pretend. He knew. And the worst part? She felt it too. What nobody knew, not the pack, not the council, not even Alara herself, was that this was not the beginning. It was the middle. The beginning had happened 8 months ago. In silence, between two brothers who both loved the same woman, and neither of them said a word. They said she was just an Omega, the lowest rank, the easiest to ignore, the kind of girl no Alpha would ever choose, and for most of her life, they were right. Her name was Alara Vale, and invisibility had become her survival. She had learned early what the Nightshade Pack's hierarchy meant for someone with her designation. It meant the worst work shifts, the smallest allocations, the specific casual dismissal of people who had been taught that certain wolves simply mattered less. She had learned to navigate it, quietly, carefully, with the specific competence of someone who had decided that if the pack was going to overlook her, she was going to use the overlooking. She filed documents in the pack archives. She knew things nobody thought to hide from her, because nobody thought about her enough to hide things. That was about to change. She was with Kieran, the Alpha's younger brother, soft where others were sharp, kind where others were cruel. He didn't make her feel small. He made her feel safe. And Alara had learned a long time ago, safe was enough, or at least she thought it was. What she did not know, what nobody had told her, was that Kieran had been carrying something for 6 of their 8 months together. Something he found in the pack archive, something with her name in it, and his brother's, in the same column, under the heading, Fated Mate. He had sat with it for a week, and then he had called her, and asked if she wanted to have dinner, and looked at her across the table with the warmth she had always thought was simply who he was. It was who he was. It was also the warmth of a man who had made a decision to keep her, for as long as he could, because he loved her, and was not ready to lose her, and because some part of him, the honest part he did not always let speak, knew that what was coming was going to arrive whether he prepared for it or not. He chose the time he had. He would not regret it. By then there was Cale Draven, the Alpha, a man no one challenged, not because they respected him, because they feared him. He wasn't loud, didn't need to be. Power sat on him like it belonged there, like it had never known another owner. And when Cale looked at you, you felt it. That quiet, terrifying certainty that he would win, no matter what it cost. But here is what nobody knew about Cale Draven. He had been losing for 8 months. Not to a rival, not to a political problem, not to anything his strategy could touch. He had been losing to a bond he had identified the night of the autumn gathering. The night he walked into the main hall mid-sentence and his eyes crossed the room and found Alara Vale standing near the east corridor, and everything, mid-sentence, mid-thought, mid-everything, stopped. Well, he had stood there for 3 seconds. Then he had looked away. Then he had gone directly to the locked section of the archive. Then he had read the law. If the Alpha rejects his fated mate, he will lose everything. His power, his title, his throne. A rejected bond does not simply break. It fractures the Alpha's wolf. The pack has seen what that fracture produces. It will not see it again. He had read the fated mate record. His name. Her name, the same column. He had stood in that archive for a very long time. Then he had made a decision. He was going to reject the bond. He was going to protect what his brother had. He was going to destroy himself to do it. He had spent 8 months telling himself it was the right call. He had been checking the archive record once a month to confirm the bond was still real. Because walking away was easier when he could confirm there was something to walk away from. That was not a man who had made peace with his decision. That was a man running out of time. The night they met properly, nothing dramatic happened. No thunder, no chaos, just a room full of people, and one wrong glance. His eyes found her, not by accident, not by chance, like he had been looking for her without knowing her name, and Alara felt something shift, sharp, Sudden. Wrong. She looked away first. He didn't. And after that night, he kept noticing her. Across rooms, through conversations, in silence. A corridor collision where he stopped and looked at her for 3 seconds with gray eyes doing something they were trying not to do. A dinner hall where she looked up and found him already looking, and he looked away so fast it was wrong for a man who never gave anything away. A night in the archive where she watched through the shelf gap as he went to the locked section and read something and stood with his hand flat on the closed folder with the specific posture of someone confirming what they were hoping was different. And then he saw her watching, and he said, "Are you happy?" "Not. What are you doing here?" "Are you happy?" Like that was the only thing that mattered. She said yes. He said good. He left. She went home and looked up the law and understood. Everything. It should have ended there. It didn't. Because Alara Vale had spent 23 years being told she was nothing, and she had just found a law that said the most powerful man in 6 territories had been identifying her as something for 8 months. Something real. Something the pack's own records acknowledged. She sat at her kitchen table. She thought about every corridor, every glance, every "are you happy?" said with gray eyes doing something they were trying not to do. She examined the feeling in her chest she had been not examining for weeks. She found something she did not have a word for, something that had been there since the first night, something that did not respond to loyalty or logic or 8 months of genuine love for a good man. She picked up her phone. She called Kieran. He answered on the second ring. She said, "I need to see you." He said, "I know." He said, "I have known for 6 months." Kieran came over. He sat across from her at her kitchen table. He said, "I found the fated mate record 2 months into us. Your name, his name, same column." She said, "You knew." He said, "Yes." She said, 6 months. He said, "Yes." She said, "Why didn't you?" He said, "Because I love you." Simple, complete. He said, "I kept you because I love you, not because it was right, because I was not ready to lose you and I am human enough to have wanted what time I had." He said, "I am sorry I didn't tell you sooner." She looked at him, at the warmth, 8 months of it. She said, "Kieran," he said, "there is something else." He said, "Cale filed a request with the Elder Council 2 weeks ago, a formal review of the fated mate record. He is going to reject the bond officially, make it irrevocable." She said, "When?" He said, 3 days. She said, "The law says..." He said, "I know what the law says. A broken bond fractures the Alpha's wolf. He could lose everything, his mind, his control, everything he has spent 5 years building." He said, "He is going to do it anyway." He said, "For us." The kitchen was silent. She breathed. She said, "Kieran, why are you telling me this now?" He said, "Because you deserved this information 6 months ago, and because I am not going to watch my brother destroy himself for my benefit and say nothing." He said, "And because the choice is yours." He said, "It has always been yours." He stood. He crossed to the door. He stopped. He said, "Alara." She looked at him. He said, "Whatever you decide, you are not going to lose me. That is not a condition. That is a promise." He said, "Now go talk to my brother." He said, "Before he makes something irrevocable." He left. She got her coat. It happened on the balcony. Cold night, empty space, no witnesses, no escape. She felt him before she saw him. He was already there. She stepped through the door. He turned. Alara. Her name in his voice felt like something dangerous. She said, "You were going to do it." He said, "Yes." She said, "Without telling me." He said, "It was mine to decide." She said, "It was mine too." He said nothing. She crossed to him. She said, "Once a month, the archive. You check the record." He said, "Yes." She said, "Why?" He said, "Because I needed to confirm it was still real." She said, "You were fighting the bond and still checking to make sure it was there." He said, "Yes." She said, "What did you feel when you checked it?" He said, "Relief." She stared at him. He said that it was real, that I had not imagined it. He said, "And then I would close the folder." And leave. She said, and then you would walk away. He said yes. She said, for 8 months. He said yes. She said, because of Kieran. He said, because you were happy. She breathed. She raised her hand. She pressed her palm to his chest. The bond blazed. Not slowly, not gently, violently, like something that had been compressed for 8 months, releasing all at once. The night air charged. Something moved through her that had no word yet. The specific feeling of something slotting into place she had not known was missing. His hand came up, covered hers. She looked at him. Gray eyes, no strategy, no control. Just Cale. Her breath stuttered. His didn't, because he already knew. He had always known. She stepped back. No, immediate, sharp, because she understood what this was. And she needed to say it out loud. She said, I'm with Kieran. Kyle watched her, unmoved, unshaken. He said, you are. Quieter. But you're mine. Her heart slammed. She said, you don't get to decide that. His gaze sharpened. He said, I don't decide it. The bond does. She went back to Kieran. He was sitting in his car outside her building. He had not left. She got in. They sat in the dark. She said, you stayed. He said, I was not ready to be somewhere you could not find me. She looked at him. At the warmth, all of it. She said, Kieran. I felt it. He said, I know. She said, the bond is... He said, real. Yes. She said, I am sorry. He said, don't be. He turned to face her. He said, I have had 6 months to arrive at what I am about to say, so hear me. He said, I love you. That is true, and it will not change. He said, and I love my brother. And I have watched him walk away from his fated mate every month for 8 months because he did not want to hurt me. He said, I am done watching people I love destroy themselves quietly for my benefit. He said, go back to him. She said, Kieran. He said, go back. Stand in front of that council. Become who you were always supposed to be. He said, and when the pack wants to know how an Omega became Luna, he said, tell them the truth. She said, what is the truth? He said that the bond does not negotiate with hierarchy. He said, and neither do you. She looked at him. She said, I love you. He said, I know. He said, I love you too. He said, now go. She went. She didn't hesitate at the door. She walked straight in. Kyle turned when she entered. She said, together. He said, together. He offered her his hand. She took it. Also, they walked into the council chamber. The council chamber was cold. Gray stone walls. 7 elders at the long table. The full weight of 3 combined centuries of pack management in one room. Every elder present. Every senior beta. Waiting. Elder Marin, 70 years old, the longest-serving council member, a woman who had managed the Nightshade Pack's affairs for 40 years, looked at Cale. She looked at Alara beside him. She said, this is highly irregular. Cale said, noted. He crossed to the center. Alara beside him. Marin said, the pack will not accept. Cale said, the pack will follow me. Marin said, she is an Omega. Cale said, she is my fated mate. He said, the law does not specify designation. The law specifies bond, and the bond is real. He said, I don't reject what is mine. The room erupted. Voices, anger, fear. This will destroy the pack. She doesn't belong. You'll lose everything. Kyle didn't move, didn't react, didn't care, because for the first time, this wasn't about the pack. A guard stepped forward. Instinct, reflex. This isn't right. He didn't finish, because Cale turned. Not fast, not violently, just enough. And the guard froze. Every wolf in the room felt it. That pressure, that warning, that line drawn in power and blood. Do not. The room went silent. And into that silence, a voice from the side of the chamber. I speak in favor. Everyone turned. Kieran was standing against the wall. He had come in behind them. He had been there the whole time. He stepped forward. He said, I speak in favor of the bond. I speak in favor of Alara Vale as Luna. He said, my brother has fought this bond for 8 months to protect my relationship with her. He has walked away every time. He has chosen me over himself every time. He said, and he would have walked into this chamber and rejected his fated mate and destroyed himself to leave me with the woman I love. He said, I am here to say that is not what I want. He said, and I am here to say that calling Alara Vale unworthy of this position is the pack being wrong. In the specific way packs are wrong when they confuse hierarchy with truth. He said, she stayed in this pack her entire life as an Omega. She stayed when it gave her nothing. She stayed because it was her pack and she loved it. He said, that is more than most wolves in this room have ever given. He said, she deserves this. He said, and so does he. The chamber was silent. Then they turned to Alara, the girl no one ever looked at, now the center of everything. Do you accept him? Her chest tightened. This wasn't just a choice. This was a war between who she had been and who she could become. She thought about Kieran, about safety, about 8 months of warmth and morning coffees and being seen clearly. She thought about the archive, the law. Are you happy? She thought about gray eyes doing something they were trying not to do, about 8 months of walking away, about relief, that it was still real. She thought about the only person who had ever looked at her like she was inevitable. She lifted her chin, voice steady. Yes. The moment she said it, everything changed. The bond snapped into place, not slowly, not gently. The air charged, power moved, not around Kale, not above him, between them. Equal. Alive. Undeniable. The council felt it. Every wolf in that chamber felt it. The specific involuntary recognition of creatures built to understand the pack bond encountering it at full activation. The bond between the head alpha and his fated mate blazing in the center of the chamber without suppression, without management, without 8 months of fighting. Simply real. Elder Brennan, the pack's most senior warrior elder, a wolf who had never knelt for anything in his life, made a sound. He looked at his own hands. He looked at Alara. He said quietly, the law was not written to protect the hierarchy. He said, it was written because the bond is the foundation of everything. He crossed the floor. He went to one knee. One by one the others followed. Not because Kale commanded it, not because anyone threatened them. Oh, because they felt what the bond was, and could not pretend anymore. Elder Marin stood the longest. She looked at Alara across the chamber, for the first time, not past her, not through her, at her. She said, you have been in this pack your entire life. Alara said, yes. She said, as an Omega. Alara said, yes. She said, and you stayed. Alara said, it is my pack. Marin was quiet for a long time. Then she crossed the floor. She stopped in front of Alara. She said, I have managed this pack for 40 years. Some of my decisions were wrong. She said, calling you unworthy would be one more wrong decision. She said, I will not make it. She went to one knee. The chamber was still. Alara stood in the center of the Nightshade Pack's council chamber, the bond blazing around her, 7 elders on their knees. The man who had been walking away from her for 8 months standing beside her with his hand in hers. She looked at Kieran. He was standing at the side of the chamber, not kneeling, standing, watching her, with the warmth, all of it. He nodded once. Slow, certain. The nod of a man who has arrived at exactly where he knew he was going and has found it to be the right place. She looked at Kyle. He stepped toward her, stopped in front of her. He said quietly, you are mine. He said, and I kneel to no one, his voice lower. But I will stand with you. He raised her hand. He pressed his lips to her knuckles. Formal, complete. The specific gesture of an alpha acknowledging his Luna before the council, before the law written in blood, before the pack that had spent her entire life deciding she did not matter. The bond was complete. They said she was just an Omega. They said she didn't belong. They said he would fall if he chose her. They were wrong. because the Alpha didn't lose his power. He changed it. And now, the pack didn't just fear him. They feared her too. She was dating his brother, until the Alpha claimed her as his mate, and the brother who knew was the first to say it was right. The bond does not negotiate with hierarchy, and neither does she. Subscribe. If you love stories where the overlooked become unstoppable, this is only where her story begins.